Hello, everyone out there in live stream land, and welcome to Live with Sheryl. I am your host, yes, your host, Sheryl Mebane. And today's episode, we have a few very special guests, one of which you have never seen on Live with Sheryl before. And her name is Crystal Simone Smith. She is an award-winning poet, and we're very lucky to have her to help celebrate on this show, National Poetry Month. Good evening, Crystal. How you doing?
Hi, Sheryl. Glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. And we also have one of our regular, very special guests joining us, Dr. Felicia Mebane. And as you all know, behind the scenes, there are all kinds of moving parts of this show. So she'll be joining us shortly. So you might notice at the bottom, we have this little ticker thing rolling by. It says Live with Sheryl. It started now. And today's show is going to tackle early on some adult topics. I'm going to share my Love, Lust, and Life album's lust selection. So we're going to have viewer discretion be advised here. And we're going to get started right away. So I'm going to go ahead and play for y'all a piece that I have premiered today on my YouTube channel, and I hope you enjoy it. It is called Body Listening. And I want to share a couple of selections, partly because at the front of it, there is some poetry. So I'm going to pull that up and we have a chance to then talk about it and listen some more and talk about it some more. And then we can really talk to Crystal because that's going to be super exciting as well. Not that my music is chopped liver, but I'm very excited to talk to Crystal. So I'm going to pull up Body Listening, and I hope you all will enjoy.
I can't be the only one who wants it just like this. Somebody hit the stretch. Somebody hit the bed. The stretch. The twist. The shake, 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 shake. Somebody. Warm hand on skin. Smells like the sky when the clouds are about to burst. Fecund. But if you strip it down, slip this down, you hear every stroke hint of the choke. I want it in the kitchen. I want it in the dining room. Hold you real tight, get wild, get low, go everywhere I want to go. Whatever way we see fit. You get it. You get it. You get it.
All right, everyone. So that's the first taste of Body Listening. I'm trying to scroll down here and see. I think Felicia's tried to join us here. I have to close a few of the things that we have open so I can see if she's in the room. So, oh goodness, I'm frozen in an interesting spot. So, Body Listening, just to kick it off, is the third piece that I have on my Love, Life, and Lust album. And so I just put it up on YouTube today, but I had been playing around with this kind of sonic and really just saying, I'm grown and I want all of us, as we're trying to get through the challenges we have to get through, to not forget to tap some of that sensual energy, some of that joy and pleasure as we do that. Because I think that's part of how we tackle some of the things that really can weigh our spirits down, is to tap all those sources for the counterbalance. What do you think, Miss Crystal?
Oh no, I'm glad you are embracing and tackling the taboo, because that we don't do that very often. We need to go there, and I think that we don't do that. It's just sort of suppressed, and I think we need to do more of what you're doing.
Well, well,
I'm
thank you.
I'm embracing my menopause, so that's a whole different story. But
And I'm getting ready. I'm like, okay, is that it? Is that it? And so, yeah, we need to talk about all these things more. This is what our bodies need. Listen to our bodies, please, and let us like
all of it.
adjust all of it. Listen to all of it. We oftentimes just want to listen to, the stuff that is fun and pleasurable. And sometimes we have to listen to those things that we just have to sort of sit down somewhere and relax and listen to that
It's
part.
really important for women because we are taught to, keep our head down or either keep our head up and forge ahead and, get things done. And we don't we don't take care of the things we need to take care of. So
Exactly, especially if it involves, can we slow down for a moment and plug in with sometimes what we need, what's better for us, and doesn't necessarily further other people's agenda. It can be challenging. So, I'm gonna go ahead because I'm very excited to share, of course, my music and all that, but I also really wanna leave, like I had said to you when you decided to join, I really wanna leave most of this episode to talk about your art. So, I'm gonna go ahead on forward in the conversation and play another selection from Body Listening because there are some other themes about health, which this show touches on music and other forms of art like poetry for National Poetry Month, but also we talk about health here pretty explicitly. So I want to make sure we get to another component of body listening so we can do that. All right, and everybody can listen to the full song now on my YouTube channel. But
You like to watch me drop my body, watch me my body. I want somebody who can like I like to. My body's listening. I want somebody who can groove all night. My body's listening. Let's play with our bodies responsibly and talk about everything that gets us there. But first, consent is sexy and sex can heal. Consent is sexy. It's good. I know what I like. Each time I play, I decide how rough, how refined. As the melody, the beat hits right each time.
So there, I'm pausing because I had this other section of the piece where I explicitly am talking about some of the, I hope was sex positive language. I know sometimes people are wanting to unpack more of the consent is sexy message from a couple of years ago, but it just resonates with me still that the things that we need to do that are healthy are also pleasurable and they're a part of uh, for those of us who don't identify as asexual and are grown, they're part of just what is good for us and healthy and positive. So let's just go ahead and do it the right way. Make sure everybody's on the same page. Guess what we need?
yeah,
Any
it is a a hierarchy. I think of needs. It's
Mm,
we ignore that sometimes.
exactly, because there are so oftentimes when there's a lot of more pressing need that we have to attend to. And of course, we should focus where we have to. Um, So I understand your time and place for pleasure, but it feels sometimes like we might be able to take a breath, check in, and notice when we are foregoing some of these moments and opportunities for just these little bits of listening to our bodies and just stopping, pausing, and just grabbing just this little, oh, it feels nice to just sit. It feels good to just drink that water. It feels good to just listen to ourselves to
Yeah.
slow down for a little bit. There's a lot we're processing in this world, a lot all the time. So, I'm not sure if that's much of a segue, but I'm just so eager to give a full section and treatment to your wonderful work, Miss Crystal Simone Smith. So I had a chance to just educate myself. So again, full disclosure to everybody out there that Crystal is another member of the family. I am so blessed and lucky. I can't believe how many very talented family members I've got, an extended family here. But and she is an award-winning poet, and not just, like, a little bit here and there. We're talking really deep into lots of, outlets for poetry and lots of deep social justice aims for the art. So, I want to have people sorta get a chance to experience your latest work, but also just meet you and get a little bit of knowledge about, like, how has your journey been so far from starting up with your art to taking it to a place where you are really talking about health for community. And we'll let you talk more about your latest art, but, that's some deep health right there.
It really is. You said you have, several people in the family who are creative and talented. And I tell you, it's very difficult in the Black community and in Black world to do that, right? Because
Mm,
you're taught to go get a job, STEM, go get a job. And And of course, that makes sense. That's a security. That's making sure you're taking care of yourself. But I think, we don't deal with our creative outlets enough. Brene Brown will tell you that. I'm not going to, give her a shout out here. But I think we have to listen to our creative selves. And I was lucky enough to self actualize. So I worked, but while I was working, I knew there was something sort of missing, and I really was a creative spirit. I'm a survivor. I understand work, but I was a creative spirit, and I needed to really foster that and hone that. And so, for example, I didn't really understand why when you went to work, you had to stay there 8 hours. I thought this is so silly. I can get this done in 5 hours and I can go do something else. And so I didn't have the capacity, the brain capacity to be in that sort of box and structure.
Mhm.
And so I started to pursue poetry and it just took off from there. It just, it was on fire. I early on went to a couple of writing retreats and published some poetry in some journals. And that just
Famous journals. She's being very modest.
Oh, okay. The first journal was African American Review, which is not an easy journal to get into. A couple other journals. I mean, just in general, but Louisiana literature. I'm trying to think of the early journals that I was published in, but really sort of fueled the fire, right? So, and then I wanted to keep going, and I came home one day, and it's probably the worst feeling any artist has and you're creative, and you have to tell the person that you live with that you are going to quit your job and you're going to pursue an MFA in poetry.
Oh, okay. So I haven't had that conversation, but something close, but yeah. Woo.
And so, that's a hard conversation, right? Because, when you think about poetry, you're like, so you're going to leave a job that pays money to get a job that doesn't pay money. Okay.
The math is what now? Right.
That math does not add up. And so I did, and I told him, it's a teaching degree. At the end of the day, I can teach, so let's go ahead and do this. I think I have to do it. And so Maury, your cousin, my husband, got on board, and it sort of went from there.
Support system
Yeah.
and knowledge of like what it really is to make room for someone's fullest self, because you're talking about always knowing there was the other component. You just knew, and people recognize the talent, and all of us are lucky from it. But I want to let people understand some of the serious, like your work is super inspiring, and I know you've had just a whirlwind coming around. So I guess your latest piece, especially, I think of just good reception and great reviews and just really positive stuff. I want people to get a sense of that. And I do want to make time for the actual art, but I also still want to talk with you a
Yeah,
lot more about
no,
yourself.
I totally understand. And I really want to be clear, about poetry. And people ask me all the time, what is poetry? What does it do? What can it bring to you? All of these things. And, how should we embrace poetry in this society, in our times? And I always say, it's one of the few free spaces left, right, for expression. There are not many left, and so we can fully express ourselves, and we do so. And in that way, it sort of becomes writing it and reading it sort of becomes a political act, right? You're
Yeah.
engaging in the truth. You're engaging in your response to the world around you, and so it's a natural gravity, right, to want to be in service or do something in service in terms of your community and the world around you. So I started a small press, which is the first thing I did when I finished the MFA, which was not what my husband wanted. It's a labor of love. I tell anybody a small press is a labor of love, but I started that because
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. Okay. I think we lost Crystal for a moment, and I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. Okay.
are we
Because
having
I was gripped by that. I was like, wait, I want to hear you started that press. I got to hear the rest of the story.
Okay, I don't even know where we left off.
You started the press. You were starting this labor of love. That's where we left.
Yeah, so it's a labor of love, and I started it, and I, immediately thought this is going to be a small press or indie press to publish African American poets.
Okay.
There are not enough venues, never have been. There are hundreds of indie and small presses, very few African American that focus on African Americans. So I thought this is a venue. This is a good venue for this, and started and got great support. Initially, the first 2 years, my support was, I'm not kidding you, people who reached out to me, people who I talked to. Nikki Giovanni was one of the first who judged a contest that I was holding.
Wow.
Sydney Clifton, who is the daughter of Lucille Clifton.
Wow.
I had really
Wow.
wonderful people trying to support this because it
was needed.
so needed,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And so in doing that, I started on a shoestring budget. We all do. We're still living, on a, if you saw the budget for most small presses, it would make you weep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's just the truth. But I started publishing and the names started coming and people started coming and that sort of worked itself out. But then I said to myself, now that I'm doing this, I'm getting some grant funding, I'm getting some traction. I actually had some independent funders, sustainers who they don't necessarily want to be named, so I won't say it on your show. But
Right.
I mean, I love them for doing what they've done.
Thank you.
Yes, but I was able to look at a community component. And the community component was, you know what? I'm in a place, Durham, North Carolina, that has a large Black population.
Yes.
And we also have a vulnerable population of kids who need service. And so I thought about poetry and how can I be in service with poetry? And so the best way to do that, most poets informed me, is you have to go to the prisons. You have to go to the incarcerated, because
Yes.
they are the people who are not only in need of poetry, but they're in need of a vehicle to express themselves, and
Exactly.
express the things that have happened to them. And so I said, well, I can go to prisons, but I really would like to deal with youth. So I ended up going to detention centers where younger children were helped before their trials. They couldn't be in the adult population.
Right.
In the prison system. So we work together. I call the program Righting Your Wrong. And so I go in, or some workshop person goes in, and you sit with them at round tables and wherever they're supposed to be doing their homework, but you're holding this workshop.
Right.
And you really just tell them to write down what they did and make a poem. And they're really reluctant at first. And the funny part about it is I break it every time by saying, I guess y'all don't listen to hip hop. You don't listen to hip hop. And they go, we listen to hip hop. And I go, writing a poem is not, it's just hip hop. That's all it is, And
Nice.
so they end up writing. I said, so if you got some lyrics to spit, I just prefer that you just write them down on this piece of paper.
Thank you. Because that connection's right there, because you're letting them know. Come on now.
And so they did, and they do, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful program. A lot of them have taken things that they've written, because it's called Writing Your Wrong. So they do write down, their circumstances and what they did. But they've taken those to the judge, and I'll tell them, I was like, you take this to the judge, and the judge has given them leniency because they have bought this piece of work in.
Because it's the art leading to another level of understanding, maturing, accountability in some kind of a way. And that's what people are needing for our healing. We don't just need to sit down somewhere. We need to process some things sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I want people to get a sense of course, just keep telling us all of your journey in any kind of way you want to, but I am super, super excited to also share, of course, some of your more recent work here. And I have a bit of the front cover of the latest piece here. I'm going to take myself out so people can see it. And I do have abilities to share the screen so we can get a few of the pieces from this work. And I guess it would be wonderful if the author herself could introduce this. And you don't need to see my face. I'll duck out.
Okay, so I don't really introduce my own work that often, but no problem. So this is Dark Testament. It's a selection of poems, Blackout Poems, that I wrote during the COVID shutdown. I was, as if you could journey back with me for a moment, we were in the midst of a pandemic. We were shut down. No one could go anywhere. There was no real human communication outside of your small bubble of your family. And in the midst of that, we had, all the racial tension and the police brutality of Ahmaud Arbery being killed, and George Floyd being killed. And so I was trying to work, trying to do what I do as a writer, and I was reading Lincoln in the Bardo as a resource for a project that I was working on. Lincoln in the Bardo is an experimental novel by George Saunders, who's one of our, uh, he's one of our greatest contemporary fiction writers of our time. And I was reading this, and I couldn't concentrate really. It was very difficult to concentrate because of the protest, of all that was happening. I was really deeply upset as a mother of Black sons, but really deeply upset about the fact that even in the midst of the pandemic, here we are still dealing with racial issues, still, even that never stops. It doesn't stop even in a
Never,
pandemic.
never.
And so that was really frustrating to me. And so I started to black out these poems just as we do that as poets, we do it as a writing prompt or as a distraction. And it became something. And that's sort of where it came
So I'm pulling up one of the pieces that is from the collection, the Dark Testament. Go out and get that. I got my copy.
from.
But I'm pulling up one. I wasn't sure what order you wanted to read it in, so I just pulled up one. But we also have the other three that were on Poetry Foundation site because people are hip to Miss Crystal now, so her work is up and around. But I didn't know which one you wanted to take on first. But I could pull up whatever you want to do first. Do you want to do Rodney
Um,
King or
let's go in the order that they're in. Whatever
okay?
you
Okay.
put up. So Oscar Grant is the poems are some are for the victims of police brutality, and some are for the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the members of the movement who protest and march and advocate. So Oscar Grant, as we know, many years ago was shot in a police station while he was handcuffed. So he sort of came to mind. And as I read the text and the passages, various victims would come to mind. I'd be reminded of them, and so that's what prompted the poem. Oscar Grant, please understand, we had been fathers, had been men, sorrowful, surging forward, damaged, had been young, our gentle qualities stripped from us by circumstance. Men who had come to grasp our heavy burden. If we could not be great, we would be useful, thereby able to effect good, smiling, hands in pocket, watching the world, cheering on days, tolerant of dark secrets. What I mean to say is we had been loved, not lonely, not lost, not freakish, loved, I say.
And that's just amazing. I mean, the depth in which we can all sit as people who take in this art and also wash in the vitality of these people who we've lost. And that's what was so palpable for me in some of these pieces, and others of the pieces have different layers as people have talked about in reviews of there are all kinds of layers to this work across, and I haven't even hit all of them because this is poetry, so I can't just
Ah,
go through it. I gotta sit with it for a day or two and get another one and get another one. So
people always call them blackout poems, and that's exactly what they are. But I also try to tell people they're persona poems. So, what might these people say from the grave? What might they say about becoming martyrs for simply walking to the store, or something, just taking, holding space in existence? All they did was just sort of
all
hold
they
space
did.
in public,
All they
and
did.
so that's more what I want people to sort of gravitate to is, I don't, the movement, all the politics that come with the movement and all the controversies and all that.
Mm.
I don't really talk about or engage in that because I think there's something so much bigger that you can take away from this.
Something so much more universal that we can take away from it. And that's what art and your art, because not everyone is really, as Felicia has a comment here, because I think she had some problems joining us, but she said, it's wonderful. I love that, to be in service with poetry. Not everyone is in service with their art. And so when you have a gifted poet who does that, she allows us to experience the universality of humanity and
Yeah.
the human suffering and human joy, and we can enrich ourselves in our little view of things because of her bringing us through. So I think we probably have time for another piece. And so between the Black Mothers or the Rodney King, do you know which one you'd like me to put up so we can?
Why don't we put up Black Mothers and Sons?
Great, I will do that. And then I'm gonna slide to the side so everyone can. I'm gonna arrange this and I'm gonna slide out of here. Okay.
Black Mothers and Sons. I am waiting to be discovered, head upended. The awful mess. Mother will not be pleased, having come so close to losing everything. Devoutly loving, standing very still among the beautiful things of this world. Dream kicking, rearranged, passing ship like, while in town a purple day unfolds, each moist grassed, flower pierced yard, gone positively mad.
And now as a mother, I sit with that piece at the end, the turn of it, and sometimes, even though I'm a poet too, I am finding layers of meaning in the art that I'm not sure what to think, but that piece, the turn of it, the end of it, just resonate with me so very deeply. And then later I could get some understanding on the more intellectual level, but your poems, you can enter them with the visual and enter them with the universality of it, steeped in so much truth.
And
And
I will say, because I love what you're doing. I love the healing aspect of
mm,
your show. And
thank you.
poetry really, if you can, if it's mine is pretty accessible. If you could get past the metaphor and all of that, it's really a refuge. It's a comfort.
Mm.
It'll make you angry, but you're probably already angry.
Yes,
So you're
we
reading
are.
poetry,
Yes.
So I encourage people to just open up, give it a chance. It's underread. It's historically underread, but give it a chance.
Especially starting with your pieces because they really are about something that we are struggling with. I mean, it's on our minds, it's in our hearts. So let someone who is maybe not coming at it from a political angle, maybe not coming at it from the angles that we've seen a lot of, take us into these spaces. She'll take care of us. Crystal has our back. She understands how to bring us into it and help us grow, but in a way that is artistic and fabulous. And Felicia has another comment here. Yes, let's elevate different perspectives and voices. We need more and different narratives to influence the world.
Thank you, cousin Felicia. I haven't
Yes.
seen you in a long time, but thank you.
Yeah. So I wanna thank you, Crystal, because if you want to in the last moments to leave us with something that we can all because I think you've been with this material for so much. I know as an artist engaging in other types of materials that really can bring us into the depths of what we're already struggling with, and then you're going to deal with it in another deep level to make your art. If you could to close with whatever you want to close with, but I'm especially interested in how do you find your spirit able to move so deeply into this kind of material and then go to the lighter, go to the more joyful. How do you leave that material? Because you went in deeply to make
Yeah,
what you made.
and I do want to read one thing if I
Mm.
can. I don't know
Yes, please, please.
Yeah, no, I do. When I write very difficult subject matters, so I get it and get out. So this book
Mhm.
alone took me maybe 4 months to write. So yeah, it's quick because
Wow.
you can't stay there very long
No,
because
no.
it's even reading it is difficult. People tell me, and so like
Yes.
I have another book of Blackout Poems that's going to be coming out, but I get in and I get out, and that's the trick to it. You
Okay,
get in,
okay.
you keep your sanity.
You have to. Oh,
Yes. And I want to read this one particular. This is something that I wrote. I
okay.
was applying for a grant and I was trying to sort of explain the responsibility of a
Mm.
Black artist. So I'll read
Mm.
this. While trauma is not the totality of Blackness, it is a significant part of our story. And so it is almost the responsibility of Black artists to articulate.
Huh, huh. I wanna know what our responsibility is. We lost Crystal for a moment, so we're gonna definitely bring her back in because y'all know we wanna know what our responsibility is. We
What
need to know.
happened? Did I
Uh,
go away?
you went away for a short moment, but I wanted to hear our responsibility as Black artists because we're all hanging on your words. I'm engaged.
Okay. Let's see. And I don't see you anymore, but I'm going to keep reading.
Okay,
So
please keep reading. Can you hear me though?
yes,
Okay, great.
essentially
You're
to
doing great.
to engage thoughtfully in the realities of our historical and present conditions is a deep frustration. It
Mhm.
is the understanding that regardless of the changes of our world has undergone, our pain remains a constant.
Hmm.
So that is kind of, I mean,
Yes,
we think about trauma and Black trauma and all of these things that my book addresses. That's not our the totality of Blackness, but it's something that I think as a Black artist we have to address, right?
absolutely.
And so
Kind of
so that
way.
that's I just wanted to read that, but I
Thank you.
yes. Oh, you're back. Okay, you're back.
I'm back, and I'm back in time to say thank you so much because with this show, yes, we're for our viewers wanting to take people through music and poetry and health and healing, but we're also artists who come on this show, and sometimes we help each other figure out how do we do the work because
Yes.
there are these deeper things that we want to bring people into in a way that can help all of us, and we want to survive it too. So now I just want to leave people with we know there's other material to get, but for people who haven't gotten Dark Testament yet, y'all go ahead and run out. It's all over the places. You can go to indie bookstores, you can go to Amazon, you can go to your Black owned bookstores. You can get this, but there's more coming, and you don't want to miss out on what Crystal's doing. There's her website, crystalsimonesmith.com. There's a big amount of things going on. You're teaching still and present all kinds of places. Where should people be looking? Is there a highlighted thing coming up next that you want people to know about?
Well, it's actually in Durham, North Carolina. So if you're here, it's Scallywag Magazine is hosting a grief poetry series, and I'll be reading and holding a workshop at. It's a hard pronunciation. It's Rofahia Books. It's a Black-owned bookstore here in Durham. So I'll be there this Wednesday coming up.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
People,
there,
write
but
that down.
there are all kinds of things happening, and I keep my Facebook page up to date. So
There we go. So follow her on social and thank you so much, Crystal. Thanks everyone who's listening. I'm going to let people know my website too and the time for the next live with Sheryl. But I just want to thank you so much, Crystal, for being a part of this show. Anytime you want to come back, we'd be delighted to have you. You have another book of Blackout Poems. You have some more wisdom you want to drop. Just let me know because you're welcome here anytime. And everybody, I know we can't hear, but just go ahead and clap it up for her because she was fabulous. And thank you so much. And everybody, I'm just letting everybody know the next time there's going to be a live with Sheryl, it's going to be about a month from now. And there'll be new music there and there'll be special guests. And we'll talk about health. We'll talk about other topics and we'll just help each other out, y'all. Until then, bye bye.
thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you. Bye, Crystal.